All right, hey Sasha, nice to meet you.
Likewise,
How's it going?
I'm amazing. Honestly, it's I was telling Amelie, it's a trip just to get a chance to talk with someone like you. I'm a musician like you. You know, and to say that music is something very important to me in my life, spiritually, is an understatement. I've been doing this podcast now for 5 years.
Wow.
And my thing is about the creative process. I started my podcast doing stem breakdowns of songs. So that's what I kind of got known for.
Stem breakdowns?
Yeah.
So you would get like the stem files and
Yeah.
then break them down. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Sort of Rick Beato does something similar? Or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I started like 5 years ago, the only person doing that was Song Exploder.
Okay.
You know, but they're doing it very produced and very like, my thing is more raw, and I'm just sitting there and I'm pressing stems with people.
And analyzing just the sort of building blocks of what makes a recording.
Yeah, but also, we also listen to a demo, we'll go over the poetry, and by the time we leave the conversation, I just play the finished song. But like it's just a pretext to get to know who the person is. You know, I don't linger on like, hey, what spring reverb did you use?
Right.
You know, it's more like, it's a sort of a format where I felt as a musician myself, like people didn't have a lot of those platforms to talk about what they really wanted to talk about. And it quickly got into being something closer to me, which is like, I don't know, like what makes an artist want to be an artist, and every experiences that we've had that shape us, you know? I think that's what's more interesting to me as I get older, especially.
100% agree with you. I'm so obsessed with the subject of overcoming creative obstacles.
Yeah.
And all the psychological aspects of that.
Mhm.
Like this is like sort of what is drawing me in more and more. Now, like with music, I'm passionate about music. I'm passionate about creativity. But there's the thing, talking about music is like dancing about architecture. Have you ever heard that?
No.
You've never heard that phrase?
But I get it.
Right. So, I mean, it's great to talk about music. And like I mentioned, Rick Beato, he does it great.
Yeah.
I love his podcast, and what a gift he is. You know, like the fact that he's as knowledgeable as he is, and it's so interesting. And even like his, what do you call it? The film composer breakdowns are just epic and it's just great.
Absolutely.
But I prefer the subject of sort of, at least in talk about like how do you overcome creative obstacles and the psychological hindrances and what creates procrastination. What creates anxiety? Why do people get stuck? And how do you get unstuck? I think and yeah, the older I get too, same. It's like I just want to talk about that. And I still want to make music.
Yeah.
You can't rock to that subject like what we did last night.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go up, but so music obviously is huge still, but yeah, I know what you mean.
The reasons why you make music and what it means to you, they change with time. Oh, she can do any kind of noise she wants.
Okay.
This is like a very punk rock podcast. There was a fire alarm the other day. Yeah, I mean, that's why I was telling you that it kind of became just a pretext for a conversation. You know,
Right.
people are out there promoting stuff, so they want to talk about their song, for instance. So that's why we'll do a breakdown. But really, it's more like I feel that like when you get to know who the person is, you don't even have to ask them about their music in that way. You know, it's like it becomes self-evident
Right.
through what the person goes through. And there was just something about. Anyways, I'm getting off subject, man. I have so many things to talk to you about.
Okay.
I've delved into your podcast for years.
Uh-huh.
I've watched many of your interviews, but there's a lot of little things that I don't know about you. So if you don't mind, and especially for people listening, I want to like trace it back
Sure.
to make sense of what's going on right now. I want to trace it all the way back. I don't know where you're from exactly.
Ohio, Akron, Ohio, which is interesting. It's an interesting place to come from. It's sort of it was a dead industry town when I grew up. It was the rubber capital of the world, basically.
Right.
Firestone, all that stuff came out of there. In my high school, there was Chrissy Hine from the Pretenders. The Black Keys went to my high school. Lots of musical people come from there. And it's the birthplace of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Is that
which
right?
the 12-step movement sprung from there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, big deal.
which is a big
Yeah,
deal.
absolutely.
It's the biggest spiritual community that's risen in recent times.
Wow.
If you think about it, how many people the 12-step movement affects? A lot.
I never thought about that.
No, I mean, because
Yeah.
you don't just have AA, you have NA, Narcotics Anonymous, you have OA, Overeaters Anonymous, you
Yeah.
have GA, Gamblers Anonymous, you have,
And it all stems from Akron?
well, the 12-step movement was born there. Yeah.
Wow.
The first meeting ever was Dr. Bob. I know the whole history of it.
That's great. That's what I want to know.
Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson. Yeah. So
And what did your parents do for a living?
my dad primarily was a lawyer, and my mom primarily sold insurance, but they did different things as well. My mom taught English, and my dad also, like, built houses and did other stuff. They were industrious people,
Okay.
So
And you have
I'm one sibling, one sister who was there last night.
yeah.
Yeah,
That was super
older
like
sister.
touching in that way. Like I was
Yeah.
thinking what a gift it is that you're a musician and you can profess your love to someone on stage. You know?
Yeah.
I
It-
romanticize this stuff.
Well, it's a mixed bag because, also I've like sung a lot of songs about dysfunctional family and stuff like that too. So, and then the older I get now, I'm a dad too.
Yeah.
I have a much more, I have a different perspective on all that stuff too as you evolve.
I bet.
You kind of you shift your perspective on things, and I mean that gets to the sort of what I feel like is the root cause of procrastination for artists, or the creative blockage is a lack of forgiveness. So I think forgiveness is a huge aspect of becoming creatively free, to sort of free yourself in general. I mean, just even in life, just to be in the moment, you
Yeah.
have to forgive everybody so you can let go of the past and really be in the moment,
You're right.
because creativity is all about being in the moment.
Hmm.
But that's a tangent.
I feel like I'm kind of going through that in my life right now anyways. You're right to say that letting go is
What do you mean you're going through that in your life?
my motivations and my challenges are changing right now. I'm 37.
Hmm.
I know that like
It's wild when 37-year-olds start to look like kids. You know you're getting old when 37, because you look like a kid to me.
I know.
So it's like, dude, but you're 37. You're almost 40. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
when 40-year-olds start looking like kids, there's a problem.
I get it all the time. People always come up to me, they think I'm 24 years old.
Yeah, you look young.
Yeah. And so so you have one sister, she's an older sister.
Yeah.
What was the music playing in your house when you were a kid?
And the Four Tops and Jim Croce. My parents were not huge music people at all.
So how did music get into your life?
I don't know, because it got in there really young. I mean, they bought my sister a piano, and I was the kid that like they said, and you should take lessons too. It was like that.
Okay. So you guys had a piano in the house?
We had a piano in the house. Still
Okay.
do, same one.
Okay.
Same house. We're getting ready to go to Ohio to play another show there.
Okay.
And yeah.
And so how did you get into music?
I needed it. I needed it. I could say I needed art and creativity. I needed God early on, and I needed music early on. So I glommed onto the bass, and I became like pretty technically proficient on the bass. I could like slap and pop and do all this stuff. And
At what age?
I became a professional musician in high school. Like I was playing 5 nights a week in Cleveland bars when I was still in high school.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I was good, and I
Okay.
got into a big Cleveland blues rock band playing bass. And so I was making $50 a night, 5 nights a week, which in the late 80s with no living expenses meant I was rich.
Would it be fair to say that you were a determined like teenager?
Yeah, I was very determined.
And where did you find that focus or that what was inside of you?
I mean, it was I would say there was a tumultuous energy in our family home. That's how I would put it now.
Sure.
So I probably just I don't know. There's an intensity too to my dad is an intense guy, and I think I have some of that intensity, you know? It's like
I
and
was gonna
he
ask
and
you that.
he and he got it from his either mom or dad probably, you know? And
Hmm.
so I think that side of my family's got this intenseness to it. And then my mom's side is much more laid back, I think, you know?
So if you
So
melt those two things together,
y
I do sense that in you.
yeah.
You have an intensity, but there's something about you that's very centered. If
Yeah, well, I work on presence. I work on getting into presence now is like the primary work I do. I tell people that like the primary work is there's two operating systems we all have. One is thought based
Mhm.
and in the level of the mind and the ego, and then the other one is presence based. And those are running in us all the time. Most people, you know, it's but see our gravity is the level of thought base operating system, which is just, you know, where anxiety, fear, and, you know,
Yeah.
insanity live. And presence is where inspiration lives. So every day I just try to get on the level of presence. But for that, you have to work. You have to do breath work. You know, you have whatever methods you want to choose. Like
Hmm.
it could be, I don't know, it could there's a bunch of different ways to get there, I guess. But I do breath work usually in the morning and sit in meditation for a little bit, and I observe my thoughts. But what enables you to observe your thoughts and not identify with your thoughts as you is forgiveness. Without forgiveness, your thoughts are going to take over because the ego loves conflict and the ego loves a victim narrative and the ego loves to sort of make itself real because ultimately it's an illusion. So it it works hard to make itself seem real to you,
Hmm.
you know.
Absolutely.
And so, but if you forgive, you start dismantling that. It becomes more transparent. You can start with metacognition. You can be the observer of your thoughts, and if you can observe your own thoughts, that means you're not your thoughts.
That's a big victory when you can manage those little moments.
It's mastering the mind. I
Hmm.
mean, that's the whole game. No
Hmm.
matter what you're sort of pursuing. Like when I tell people, sometimes I'll talk to people after a show or something, and I'll talk to them on this level and say, this is the work I do. The music and the art is just the fruit of that work. That's not really the work. The work is getting present.
Absolutely. I
The
know what you mean when you say that.
the work is
Yeah.
overcoming the mind and overcoming the ego.
Yeah.
And then everything else in life in the 3D is just a result of that work, you know?
You're absolutely right. Yeah,
Yeah,
because the I couldn't have said it better. That's just the result of that work that you're putting in
right.
the shadows.
Because then the spirit is moving you.
Yeah.
You're not coming at it from the level of the mind and mental chatter where it's like not that powerful.
But I gotta ask you, Joseph,
Yeah.
where and how did you come to this moment where I mean, because I don't know you personally, have you always been this way? Is this something that has manifested in your life later?
Yeah, and earlier, but also later, you know?
Like
Um,
what happened that made you? Because I know, I mean, I'm talking about experiences, obviously. Like, what were the experiences, or was there a moment that you're like, okay, this is too much and I need to refocus or find myself?
a lot of different moments like that. Yeah, I mean, I've struggled a lot with, you know, but I'm no different than anyone else. I mean, I
Mhm.
think this is just a human journey.
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like this is the game we're here to play. Like there's a game here to play.
Yeah.
It feels significant to me. It doesn't feel like it's inconsequential.
I
It
have
do,
to agree.
it doesn't feel like a LARP. It feels like it has consequence to me. I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing, but that's the feeling about it. And
I feel like I'm hearing myself think when you say this.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I would say since you sort of said that's where I'm at right now, just forgive everyone and realize everyone did the best they could. And because you have to set yourself free, and that's the only way to do it.
Hmm.
It's like the Bible says our battle is with principalities, not with flesh and blood, meaning it's all spiritual. So if you're pointing your resentment at a person, you're off track
Joseph, you're giving me shivers, man. Like,
because then you're pointing your resentment at flesh and blood, but that's not who's working against you.
mhm.
It's principalities working against you, and they work through other people. So that's how Jesus could turn the other cheek because he knew innately that's not that person. It's spiritual.
Mhm.
They're affected by spirits. Those spirits are working through them to mess with me. So he never resented the people, even when they tacked him up on a cross. He was like, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Yeah,
He was, and I mean, he wasn't just like trying to sound cool when he said that. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
he was telling us something, you know, and ultimately it just releases you. And the thing is, our nature is to not forgive because the ego likes that conflict because it makes the ego more real.
It feeds.
So you have to have an ego death to forgive, which makes forgiveness the main work we need to do to defeat our own ego, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and then that sets us free to live from inspiration rather than from memory.
Joseph, you're tripping me out, man. Like, I needed to hear this. Absolutely. The way you said it, the way you simplified this concept,
Yeah, it's simple.
it
It's
tells me that you've thought about it quite a lot.
it's the primary work I do
Hmm.
every day.
Hmm.
So yeah, it is so simple. It's like it couldn't be more simple, but it's very difficult
Yeah,
because the ego it like wants it's the
it's a
ego
daily thing.
the ego's asserting itself as the ultimate reality all the time. And so to die of your ego means to die of who you think you are. And that's tough
It is tough.
to let go of that because that voice inside your head is going to say, like, you need me. Are you me? Oh, you're going against me?
Hmm.
Me. You're going to go against me. Like, that's hard. But what happens in life is egos don't age well. So you asked me how I got to here.
Yeah.
I would say just by virtue of the fact of aging.
Hmm.
Because when you're young, when you're in your 20s, 30s, the ego still feels like this sexy beast. But when you get to be 50s, which is where I'm at, it's not a vibe. It sucks, dude. Like, it's not a vibe.
Oh
It's like
man.
the egos age horribly. Like, older and older people that are still all locked in their ego, it's not a good look.
I have to agree.
You know what I
I know.
mean?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
but a 20-year-old still all egoed out is kind of fine. It's like because
Yeah.
they're not at the phase yet where they're supposed to have gotten over that.
I often tell people that like when they shit on older people,
Right.
it's like it's the way you shit on older people is gonna be proportionate to the amount of shit you're gonna get when you're older.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah, that's funny.
And I feel like that's why I always steer clear of like judging or commenting on older people because I feel like although I'm just 37, what you just said, I can already tell the way I'm different from when I was 20.
Yeah.
I'm seeing 40, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
my ego is really fighting with me these days.
Well, it won't age well. And what happened in my life is, my ego got dismantled for me. But like through from what would seem like on an external level, terrible things that happened.
Hmm.
But it's the best thing that happened because when your ego gets like dismantled, you have to replace your identity in presence.
Yeah.
And that's where freedom and peace lie.
Do you feel there's a sense of rebuilding when you get to that point? Is it scary?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it would be it is scary, yeah, when you're trying to like build a life and your ego's working on the life and then that life starts coming unglued.
Yeah.
That's you
That's
that
that's what I'm afraid of.
Right. Well, it probably will happen. I mean, it'll probably happen. No offense.
No, I mean that's why I'm telling you this. Yeah, I need to hear this.
But it's a good thing if
Hmm.
it happens because then then you're forced into going deeper,
Hmm.
and fortunately there is something deeper. But what is that something? Then that's the $1 million question.
But it's a good it's an interesting thought coming from someone like you who has such a, from an outside perspective, such a strong identity. I have to assume that in your life you were made aware through reflections of that persona, that person that you are in different aspects of your life. Didn't that make that challenge even harder? Because in a way I don't feel a lot of my value, I suppose, is coming from accomplishments, and that's
It,
a problem of mine.
yeah.
Because I was a neglected child, man. I need to always
Okay.
constantly prove myself.
Hey, I'm looking at a mirror then. I'm looking right into a mirror then,
Right.
Same, absolutely.
That
But
hurts me.
what do you mean it hurts you?
It hurts me because I can see myself now that I'm a little older and I'm on my path, and I'm like, Sasha, why are you attaching all this worth through, things that are outside of you, basically? I'm not my podcast, I'm not my music, I know all that. And I'm not really even getting what I want. So I'm always feeling shitty. And then, but I'm not any of those things. And I was saying that I have to imagine that for someone as accomplished as you, there's an extra layer of like, wait, I have to let go of all of this stuff in a way, you know?
Well, the ego is never satisfied, and I've ridden pretty high in some avenues of success at certain points in my life, and then
Yeah.
also been all the way at, like, as Bob Dylan puts it, at the bottom of a world full of lies as well. Like, so I've had a very roller coastery thing like that. So all the things you're doing, like the podcast, the music, that's not the problem. Those are all good. Like, it's good to do the podcast. It's good to do music. It's what you're attaching to it that's the problem.
Yeah, of course.
And you can be free from all that and still do it and still do it better
Yeah.
through presence. And you'll be moved if you're meant to do it. You'll be moved just to do it. And action will be sort of natural rather than fear based. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. It's right now I'm in this moment right now where I figured like instead of just quitting, I'm just gonna focus on having fun. Which for me is it's hard to do, to have fun.
Well, what do you mean by fun? Like,
I put so much emphasis on the result,
right.
instead of just the action of doing the presence,
Yeah.
being present in that way.
Well, you don't put that emphasis on it. Your ego does. And
Yeah.
you are not your ego. And so the more you disassociate with that you that you just called you that's not you,
Yeah.
then the freer you will be.
Now, Joseph, I want to let you know that like I'm not gonna accept your invoice as my therapist. Joseph, I have a short time with you, and though I want to continue talking about this, I do want to highlight some other things. I left my little notebook there, if you don't mind. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Uh, so we spoke about your parents. I do want to know, like, I know it's like these are like basic questions for now, but like, I am curious. Like, what was the first artist that you were like, band artist that you were like, wait a minute, I can do that. I want to do that.
Kiss, was like when
Amazing.
you're a kid, it's like the makeup, the whole thing.
Amazing.
So yeah, it was like, it's like basically like a cartoon, right?
Yeah.
But then it sort of invites you into rock and roll. So
Absolutely.
it's like it's tailor made. Plus, I was exactly that generation. I was born in 1971,
Right.
and so like what?
Can I get your take on I Was Made for Loving You?
Yeah. Oh, it's the disco Kiss, right?
I love
It's
that song.
It's
Are
a
you
great
kidding
song.
me? I was
Yeah.
listening to it yesterday. I forgot it existed.
Yeah, that was a time. That was a different time. I mean, like in terms of like,
What was your Kiss jam then?
oh, I mean, hotter than hell. Like,
Okay.
like I got actually it's Easter today. I don't know if
Yes.
I'm allowed to say that because you're probably releasing this like 4 months from now or something like that.
I'm releasing
But
it next week.
okay, so but if yeah, I got Easter. I got hotter than hell on Easter one year from my parents, which is pretty interesting. It's like
With the makeup and okay, so Kiss. And okay. So then you told me that you were in high school and you were playing many nights a week in bars.
well, yeah. I mean, then from Kiss, my sister was older. She was into Bob Dylan and Rush and Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and all that. So I like glommed onto all that music
Hmm.
and loved it. And then, but I got into jazz fusion because I wanted to be like the greatest bass player ever. So I was
Right,
into Jaco Pastorius and Stanley Clark and those bass heroes.
right.
And
Sheesh.
yeah, and then so that's when I got into that blues rock band, and we played 5 nights a week. And
That's crazy.
yeah, no, it was crazy. I lived a double life. I would get home at like 4 in the morning, 3, 4 in the morning, because we played in Cleveland and I'm in Akron, which is like 30, 40 minutes away.
Right.
And then I would get up at 7 to go to high school. And
Were you a good student?
no,
Okay.
no, I almost dropped out of high school because of it. And I was also drinking a lot. Like
Right.
I could drink in the Cleveland bars even in high school. So I would just be getting wasted every night and then playing gigs. I mean, it was an insane way to live in high school.
I heard you talk about that you started drinking at a young age. Is this one of the reasons why?
Um, no, I was already drinking before that. Um, uh, yeah, I started drinking pretty young. I mean, a lot of high school kids did, you know.
It feels like this was one of a thing about your generation,
Yeah, we used to get wasted.
right?
Like
Right.
like we would take, our parents' alcohol, we would just like do these like kamikazes of hard alcohol, like peppermint schnapps, whiskey, like just disgusting
Ugh,
concoctions, and just all meet up, sneak out of the house, and just drink this crazy stuff
fuck it.
and just get loaded. It was insane.
I mean, what can I tell you? Everybody's been doing that in high school.
Yeah,
I used to like my friend used to steal his parents' alcohol too.
but then after that, I graduated high school. I quit that band. I moved to Atlanta. I started just working jobs. I was playing in another band, and then I got an acoustic guitar. I simplified everything. I started writing. I started concentrating on lyrics and melody. I ended up writing an album with that sort of new philosophy, and I made a cassette tape. I was actually in AA at that time. Even before I turned 21, I was already in that program.
Wow.
And then I gave a demo tape to one of my friends in that room who didn't have any music industry. It wasn't connected to any ambition. And then he gave it to a guy who gave it to a guy who gave it to a guy who gave it to Peter Gabriel.
Hmm.
And then Peter Gabriel called me up and signed me to his record label. So then I was like flown out to England, and
Wait a minute.
I began like my professional music career at that point, really,
You got a phone call
from Peter Gabriel.
that he was on the phone.
Yeah,
I
well,
was wondering about
he
that.
left
Like,
an answering machine message like saying, "This is Peter Gabriel, and I think you write excellent songs, and I want to sign you to my record label. Let's talk soon." And I think he
amazing.
left a number, and you know what I mean? And so it was just a sort of being struck by lightning because at that point, there's no internet at all.
Yeah.
And there's no way you could get your music out there any other way, really, than getting a record deal, which was like getting like lightning striking in a way.
I mean, this is like a really big stroke of luck,
Yeah,
but I do like to just linger on this for a second because a career like yours is not just hard work, it's also luck,
absolutely. Well, grace, I prefer to call it grace,
right?
So for sure, absolutely.
Before I get into that story, I wanted to ask you a question I really want to know the answer to that. When did words and language get into your mind? Because you are, for me, your poetry really touches something inside of me, and I have to know, like, when did that manifest in you?
Um, I think quite young I started writing. I was in all the kind of remedial classes in high school, and like I was in the sort of dumb kid classes, right? Like, and in that time, or even in junior high school, that was like the societal break between the upper class and the lower class, right? So all of the us dumb kids knew we were dumb kids, right? And all the smart kids knew they were smart
It
kids.
was that clear.
It was really clear, yeah. And one time, and in one of the English classes, they said, "Hey, Joe, I want you to wait after class. We want to talk to you after." And I thought I did something wrong and I was in trouble. And then they said, "We're going to move you to AP English, which was Advanced Placement English."
Hmm.
So I then, which was a shock to me because that was like the the super smart kids
Right.
English. And so I went. Suddenly, I was in their room, and I felt like this outsider. Like, oh, now I'm in the smart kids
Right.
class, but it was only in English. So I had a gift for words when I was really young, and
Would you say that was an important validation for you, that change?
I probably, yeah, probably was. But then ultimately, my AP English teacher, who was like the teacher of the year guy, like the kind of guy they make movies about, like he had everyone sit in a circle type of guy, like,
Okay.
um, and he told me that I wasn't college material still, like which was really weird. Like
Hmm.
yeah, he sort of, and that's not the reason I didn't go to college, but I just didn't. I just became a working musician again
And did you have
after high school.
a writing practice? Like, you seem to be prolific. When did that,
Yeah,
like,
I write. Like, you want me to read you something I wrote yesterday?
I would love that.
All right, let's see. I haven't actually reread it yet, but let's see. So it might have typos and I might miss words, but let's see.
While we're on that subject, do you write in your phone a lot?
Yeah, that's what I write in the notes.
Right.
People mostly living through temporary states of defeat, temporary states which threaten to be permanent through the passage of time. Lives often take their potential with them as bodies fall into dust and crawl out of memories, the way cockroaches scramble when the lights come on in a slum. Fear is the devil's handiwork here, and he sends its snakes to strangle each one in their private torment, where nobody really sees them. They know how to act polite and play the role of human who has their shit together, but mostly people are full of cacophonies of voices coming from realms unknown, whispering and then shouting instructions for failure. There is a way to overcome those voices, to turn the devil into a weeping child of flames, to extinguish him entirely as an impostor becoming black smoke and drifting into the drifting of never was, to make him smaller than small, non existent. Because it's an all or nothing game that he plays or that life plays. You're busy being born or you're busy dying. There is no neutral space here, no beige room to wait around in. And to overcome fear, we must become the forgiving observer, to obliterate our very nature, to die of ourselves and be born into presence where nothing like fear exists, or anger, or regret, just a thoughtless now. An eternal eternity, an eternal half a second amount to the same amount of time. A place of peace and salvation where freedom reigns and inspiration is a springboard for every moment, one now moment. All the history of humanity expands into like some kind of carnival future ricochet. Eyes blossom like waves of light, jump into creation without a fight. Single eye freedom sight, belief that stuns as faith takes flight. Death of self born again beyond the sorrow from waves of sin. No more need to break or pretend. All the weapons gone again. Wings that bloom from third eye sight help us wander into the light. The devil laughing, the flesh delight, fingers reaching the hands of night. the moment open into our skin, the light allows us in again, birthing pangs, the wish of love. We take flight like a homeward dove. Forgiveness shattered our empty cage, and then all there was a turning page, a story writing on itself as we become like nothing else.
You wrote that yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah. I didn't edit it, or in fact, yeah, there wasn't many there was only one missing word right there at the end.
That's amazing.
It was cooler than I thought.
You
That's the way writing works, because when you're writing it, you're like, oh, this is like those. That's when that weird, like that weird sort of disparity of different voices in your head are sort of really there and sort of easy to see in the act of creation itself,
hmm
because you're writing and then there's a voice in there going like, oh, this isn't that good, you kind of suck, dude.
Right.
You know, and you have to always like ignore that voice, that critical voice, while you're in the flow state.
hmm
The like optimal flow state is when you don't hear that critical voice at all.
Right.
And then that critical voice can be a help in an editing sort of way, but it's a kind voice. It's a constructive
Yeah.
voice. There's also the abusive voice, and that's the one to overcome.
I like to talk about taste also, because we talk about skill as if skill is skill. It's a measurable thing. You know, you can get better if you practice. I get that,
Hmm.
but there's something that we don't talk about a lot, which I feel is taste, because it's sort of intangible taste. You know, you pick that color over that color, that chord over that chord, and that's what makes something good.
Hmm.
And I find that like it's not the best musicians or the best artists that I like. It seems to be something where it's just a matter that they have good taste.
Hmm.
Do you does that resonate at all with you when you think about artists?
It makes me wonder, like, where does taste come from, and
Yeah.
then whose taste am I dealing with? Like, because okay, like take that poem for instance. I don't know how much taste came into it, you know, because um, it's coming from some ethereal plane, right?
hmm
When you write like that, um,
But you're making all those decisions
not
without
but not on
thinking.
the level of, yeah, without
Yeah.
thinking. That's the key.
Yeah,
Like, so
absolutely.
I feel like taste resonates to me on the level of thought more.
Understood.
So I don't really like, taste doesn't really come into the act of creation.
hmm
However, there is a voice informing me, and I guess that voice has taste, or
Right.
it has a vibe and a style, but I'm not controlling that.
You don't question it.
Well, I do question it,
Okay.
and I do sometimes dislike it, and I do sometimes see tropes I fall into over and over again, and I have criticism about it. Like, you know what I mean? But that I overcome to make the stuff, and then it's not like, one thing I like. There's this Neville Goddard thing about you. You should consider yourself the greatest, which sounds real egotistical,
hmm
like the greatest, like that's like opposite of what we're supposed to say about
Yeah,
ourselves in polite
absolutely.
society, unless you're Liam Gallagher and you can do it with the God-given humor he can do it in that makes it very attractive when
Sure.
he does it. But it's like not all of us are gifted in that same way that we, so, like, but what it's not on the level of that ego that you should consider yourself the greatest. You should consider yourself the greatest on the level where you're helping yourself overcome those voices of fear
Right.
and valuing what you bring into
hmm
the world to the uppermost,
Yeah.
because then you'll manifest more valuable work that way when you frame yourself as that. So I've been doing that more consciously lately before shows, doing breath work and this EFT tapping technique, which is like you tap these acupuncture points
Yeah.
and you say very positive things to yourself, like "I'm the greatest," or I'm a lot of times I'll say I'm bringing God's light and love to the people with grace and humor. I put humor in there too. Like I want it to be funny and like, but also fierce and intense as well. Like I want that mix.
That was your show last night.
Yeah, that's what I want.
100%.
And I manifest that before I do breath work
That's crazy.
and yeah, I know, and I pray for that.
Wow.
And I pray to give people. Like I think that as I'm becoming an older performer, I'm more interested in giving to the audience than I used to be when I was younger. I was interested in getting love. Like what you're saying, I'm a neglected child and so I'm ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeking to get. But if you can flip that and with the work of presence and forgiveness, you flip that to a working to give. And when you're working to give, you're less concerned with the results. And you're more because you're you know, like
What you're saying is so big.
yeah, it's huge. I mean, Jesus was the ultimate example of being others focused.
But I
He was
know
others focused entirely. Like he wasn't self focused. He was others focused. And so the more we can be others focused, the stronger we can be as artists.
I don't know everything, but I know what you're saying to be 100% true.
Yeah,
Because when you say it, there's nothing else to say. That's what it is. I absolutely agree, and I see that. I saw that in you yesterday.
yeah. Well, you come with that intention,
Yeah.
and you do so purposely. It's not my nature. My nature, like my ego nature, is the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
My ego nature just wants more and more. Me.
Yeah.
Is
That
that
monster.
it's a monster, dude? It's horrific.
Yeah,
We're all horrific on that level. Like none of us are different, dude. All of us
absolutely.
are that. Like, and that's so relieving to like sort of tell on yourself on that level, because then and also like it
Yeah,
relieves everyone else, and also it helps you forgive everyone else when they're being like that, because you're like it's not
100%.
really them. It's what's born in them. It's what they're identifying. Them ultimately is exactly the same reflection of like the ultimate that you are. So you can love people even in spite of their behavior, and hopefully they'll love you in spite of your behavior, you know, like and see past all that stuff. But then when you're doing the work to overcome that, it's like that's the work.
Yeah,
And then everything else just falls in line. I mean, the Bible says, seek first the Father, and all else will be added on to you. It says it plainly. And when it says seek the Father, it's another way of saying seek presence.
hmm
That's the Father.
I think that's something that's misunderstood.
Oh, the Bible is tremendously misunderstood
What you
because
just said, yeah.
yeah, because it's like a lot of times people like Eastern thought is more palatable to people, like the Buddhist stuff, or like people get freaked out about Christianity. But Christianity, I feel like when you interpret it in the right way, is so psychologically healthy, helpful, and profound.
Oh, you
And
just said it. Interpretation.
it's interpretation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like you know, it has it's just helping us to overcome that kind of stuff, basically.
Just Arthur, sorry, I have to say that like my favorite part when I meet people is knowing how much intention and purpose they put into their work,
Yeah,
and like I didn't know who I was gonna meet today,
right.
and sometimes those two things don't match.
Yeah,
People project something that is so different to who they are,
right.
and then I meet them and I have these types of conversations, and I go, oh, that person's not really about it. You know, whereas
Yeah,
I'm blown away because everything you've been telling me, it's like I do not know you,
right.
but you're putting this energy out in the world, and like it's matching so perfectly. It's powerful to be in your presence, even just to talk about this stuff, man.
Oh, good.
Um,
Well, it's presence. It's not even. Yeah, it's a defeated ego, basically.
mhm.
It's
That's
it's
inspiring.
the result of a defeated ego. I mean, I went through cancel culture
Yeah,
recently. You know, that was so helpful to me on all this level. I wasn't like this before that. I
I
really wasn't like this before that. I was always concerned with these issues.
mhm.
I definitely was spiritually motivated, and wanted to overcome this stuff, but I just didn't know how to or where to even begin or how important forgiveness was. It was the journey that led me to forgiveness. Ho'oponopono is an amazing mantra. It's a Hawaiian mantra, and it can help with this. It goes like this: I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. It's 4 phrases. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And
Right.
essentially it's all about total self accountability and self responsibility. And so if you think of someone who you're sure wronged you, that owes you an apology, and it's obvious to you that you're owed an apology by this person, that's who you send this mantra to, the first person that comes into your mind when you think like that. And then you send but it's like Neo in the Matrix, where all those bullets came flying at him and he just did this and they just stopped in midair and fell.
Yeah.
Ho'oponopono is like that on the level of resentment, because you're offering that person an apology because you judged them and you were wrong to judge them.
But what you're saying is so hard to do, Joseph.
It's not.
Fuck.
Well, I mean, it's only hard to do through misunderstanding.
It takes courage.
Well, I mean, in a way, yes, I guess, but it's also just understanding that ultimately you're responsible for everything in your field of consciousness. Look at your life like a dream. If you had a dream, you would know that every aspect of that dream was some reflection of you. The 3D works exactly the same way. Our real life is everyone is you pushed out, like Neville Goddard said. So everyone is a reflection of your space. You're judging and condemning others, and that's the primary sin. Okay, if you go to the Garden of Eden and the apple, what's the apple? It's the fruit of knowledge, right?
Mm.
Knowledge leads to judgment. That's why we're not supposed to judge. We're not supposed to condemn. It's not for us to do that.
Right.
It says it clearly there.
Right.
That's God's business. Our business is not to do that. And so if we're in judgment and condemnation, we're essentially casting ourselves in hell. And when you know that, when you really know that, it becomes a lot easier to, every time that comforting voice of judgment, well, look, what do? Where the ego likes that, so it feels like an ego rush, because the ego's like, yeah, I'm judging that other person. I'm better than.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like fake powerful. It's fake, though. It's all deception.
Yeah.
And so when you really know that and you really understand that, it doesn't take as much courage to overcome it, because you understand that puts you in hell. And so it becomes
The price to pay.
Dude, once
Yeah.
you really realize that, then
Yeah.
you're like, well, I don't want any part of that. And so, like,
You're right.
I'll have a judgmental thought that'll come to me still, but through all this work, I'll instantly identify it as nope, nope.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to lead to anything like peace or happiness. And so I'll apply Ho'oponopono on that judgmental thought straight away. I'll just go, I love you, I'm sorry, please. I'll flip it. I'll instantly apologize to that person in my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And then it'll obliterate that, and I'll return to peace and inspiration and where I actually want to be.
Joseph, you sound like you're in a good place. I have to say, man, like, it's really cool, because I did follow some of your arc, well, most of your arc, and
Yeah.
like, I felt like for a minute there you ate a lot of shit unfairly.
Well,
And like,
as it's playing out, I would agree with you, sir. And even with that narrative, like, because I could gloat. I mean, I feel like I could gloat. I could say I was right, and look what happened, and I was earlier than all these other influencers that are now taking credit for being courageous or whatever, like
Right.
I could make that part of my ego. And I suppose I just did, even just now, like I just slipped.
it's
I would call that a slip, but there you go. And
I would call that being human.
being human, right? But I recognize it, and I see the danger of my ego even glomming onto that story, and go, and that is not allowed in this room either. Because whatever, that's the past. Or like Joseph said in the Bible, who his whole family, Joseph in the dream coat, his whole family buried him and left him for dead, and then he became king of the world and all that. And then they asked him about his family and all that, and he goes, I forgot all about it. And that's a huge, beautiful lesson because obviously he didn't forget his brothers tried to kill him and leave him for dead. Obviously he didn't forget that stuff. But when asked about it, he said, I forgot. And it's beautiful.
Right.
It's perfect because I forgot. Same thing. And it's like, yeah, actually, when people say, I forgive, but I don't forget, it's like, then you didn't forgive. Actually, go ahead and forget. Why don't you also forgive and also go ahead and forget?
You know what, Joseph? I'm gonna integrate that one as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, really let it go.
You're right. You're right. I mean, I
Like-
have nothing to argue about this.
No, it's all about dismantling that sort of egotistical nature. But yeah, I did, and ultimately, you have to frame whatever happens to you as like, what lesson am I getting out of it? And I can say that this has brought me more peace in my life, probably than anything else, because my ego could identify as this like sort of famous musician or whatever who like touring and all this stuff, and I was doing that for 25 years, and all of that went away. I couldn't have my identity rest there anymore. I had a child right at that exact same time. I mean, it was a scary thing to live through.
Yeah.
But it was good for me because then I had to go deeper into this work I've been discussing with you today, and it meant I had nowhere else to go but into that work. And so I took that work very seriously, and just that's how I found presence, I would say.
Joseph, I love this conversation, but I would be remiss if I didn't shift a bit of the focus to mention some things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because if when people know I have you on and I didn't ask some questions, I'm gonna eat some shit.
That's fine.
But truly, that was I was kind of hoping you would be this kind of person, and I'm really happy we're having this conversation, man. Truly.
Yeah, me too.
It's never random that I would be having a conversation with someone when I'm going through certain things in my life.
No, it's not random. It's absolutely not random.
We spoke about Peter Gabriel, and I did want to know, however, you were 21. You said, right?
When
that change happened, when you were reached out by Peter Gabriel.
No, that I was about 24, 25.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at that point.
Where were you in your head at that point? Like, what were you doing musically?
I was working minimum wage at a guitar shop.
Okay.
The manager, when I got the record deal, he told me I was the worst employee of Clark music history.
Right.
So, I was unhappy and I didn't have any real hope. I mean, I wasn't particularly popular locally musically. I was I wasn't particularly popular. I had a little something, I guess. I mean, I was working at it, but
what were you?
I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, so there was certainly grace that stepped in because I could have ended up just working remedial jobs had that not occurred.
Right. And what happened for you then? Like, specifically, like, I like to imagine the situation where someone gets this thing. Did you get on a plane, get on a car? Like, you went to meet him? What
there was a thing called Recording Week that they did, and it was so Real World Studios in Box, UK, is like one of the most technically advanced studios in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There was I think 5 or 6 studios on the compound basically, and so Peter Gabriel was at sort of the height of his power in some kind of way culturally, I would say, and he invited great musicians from all over the world and famous musicians from the West, like Joe Strummer came, Iggy Pop was there. There was all kinds of people. Carl Wallinger from World Party, the Das Ball family from India, African musicians,
Wow,
all. So
wow.
when I showed up at Real World, it was in this 1 week where all these people were there. So I went from working minimum wage at a guitar shop to going to Real World Studios, but it wasn't just Real World Studios normally. It was like a carnival of fame
Right.
and talent.
Yeah.
Producers, John Leckie, who produced The Bends by Radiohead, was suddenly I'm working with him, and we're in the studio for a week just doing my acoustic stuff. He worked with John Lennon and stuff like that. It was, and Brian Eno sang on one of my songs I recorded when I
Yeah.
was there. Like it was
That
insane.
doesn't make sense.
It was like go. It was like yeah, supercharged. It was crazy. So
And again, you're 24.
yeah, I was like a kid, you know.
Had
And
you left Akron much at that point?
well, I had gone to Atlanta.
Okay, yeah, right. Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I wasn't traveled or anything,
Right.
and I was on the grass at Real World, just like hanging out with somebody. And Peter came down and said, "Hey, we're working on a track up in the studio up there. Why don't you come and work on it with us?" And I still identified myself as a bass player at that point.
Okay.
And I said, "You want me to play bass or something?" And he goes, "No, I think you should write lyrics and sing." And I was like, "Really?"
Hmm.
And so then all of a sudden, me and Peter are both writing lyrics together and singing on this song. It's called Exit Through You, which is released on this album called Big Blue Ball. So you can hear it. Exit Through You. That was the first song I recorded at Real World with Peter.
That's crazy.
It was
That's
nuts,
crazy.
dude. And so we wrote the lyrics, and I was like, just like trying to, eke out some lyrics and
Um,
sing. And so it was kind of like that. It was just, it was like an otherworldly dream, basically.
and
And
that was like a week?
that was like a week. And then I was like just staying at Real World, which is a commercial studio, but
Hmm.
they had put me up in a room there. And like 3 days after the recording week ended, I was still there. And then they came up to me and said, "Hey, you can't live here, man."
Okay, right.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." But I met a guy named Graham Pattison at Real World who he crashed it. He came, he knew that it was going on, and he came uninvited. And we became best friends. And he lived in South London. And instead of going home, I just said, "Hey man, can I come stay with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, come to London and I'll pick you up at the train station." And
Just like
so
that.
just like that, I lived in London for a year then, sleeping on his couch.
That's amazing, man. That's
So
amazing.
then, yeah, so then I was in London for a year.
How
I
did you like that?
I loved it. It was during like Blur versus Oasis. It was like it was a great time to
Right.
be in London. It was like and just getting to experience that culture. And I started writing songs with Graham too, and just like he had a studio in his bedroom, and so we would record, and we would just like be up all night drinking beers and recording. I started drinking again, unfortunately, but and then I'm sober again now. Well, I mean, mostly.
Sober-ish.
I really am. We don't drink, or I don't even really smoke weed. I don't have the same addictive thing that I used to have with it. Like
Right.
if every now and again but I'm not suggesting that for anybody else. But for me, it seems to work that way now.
I know I'm gonna be jumping a little bit over the place, all over the place because of our time, but
Yeah.
because I have you, I know I listened to your Lou Reed tribute album.
Oh
Is it
yeah.
fair to call it that? A tribute album?
It's absolutely a tribute album.
Um, I feel like I was very surprised when you put that out.
Yeah.
And also I didn't really know before I researched it that you were friends with him.
Yeah, well,
I
interestingly, he came to my first like what happened too with the Real World thing is then I went to New York right after that, and Peter came to see me play, which was kind of like an audition,
Okay.
and he was going to record it so he could bring it back to Real World because he's not the big boss guy. He wants to include everybody in the decisions.
Hmm.
So he was going to play it for all the team at Real World and see if they
Gotcha.
agreed we should sign me. So there was a huge amount of pressure on that gig. And again, this was my first tape I made even as a singer-songwriter. So I still was like a slap and pop bass superstar in my head. I
Okay.
wasn't like this acoustic folky guy.
Yeah.
And when Peter showed up at that gig, he brought Lou Reed with him. And so Lou Reed brought his DAT recorder to record the show.
No
So
pressure.
the pressure was insane. And and Lou Reed was a hero of mine at that point.
Hmm.
And Peter, I mean, I was a hero of mine too, but not on the same level as Lou. Like,
Well,
just
he's
now
English.
I mean, I rate them both. It's not to say that I don't rate them both supremely highly. I do. And I rate Peter like he's amazing. I love him to this day. He still mentors me to this day. He came to a last gig in London and told me, hey, I should spend more time work crafting my songs and gave me good. He still gives me advice like that.
Thanks.
But yeah, it's like kind of like that, but
Yeah.
it's good for you,
Of course.
And and uh yeah, so from that point, I mean, I didn't become fast friends with Lou, but I knew Lou, and then years later, we were kind of reintroduced,
Hmm.
and then we sparked up a friendship that was actual, like where we would just hang out, like
Hmm.
we would meet up real frequently and just kick it, you know.
I have
So
a.
he became a good friend. I loved him very much, and when he passed, Bill Bentley at Vanguard Records said, "I think you should do a Lou Reed tribute album." And I, of course, thought he meant do one song with a bunch of different artists that are also going to do songs.
Right.
And I was like, okay, sure. And then he goes, no, I think you should do your own whole Lou record. Because I wouldn't have come up with that idea or have been bold enough to do that
Right.
myself,
Yeah.
especially then.
Hmm.
Like now it seems like less of a big deal. But right when he passed, it was like quite a weird thing to do in a way.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I don't know, man, that's a little intense, like in terms of like people thinking you might be like trying to glom on to something or like, But what happened was I was mourning my friend as well. I mean, it was a deep cut when he passed. Um, and so I just, over the course of 3 days, I just started doing like a couple different Lou songs acoustically every day. And I just recorded it by myself in the studio. I had a Steinway Vertigrand. I applied a Brian Eno rule on it where I set limitations. The limitations were has to be all acoustic instruments. The
Okay.
bass was acoustic, the guitar was acoustic, and it was piano, and those were the elements I could use, and that's it. And I could do harmonies on it as well.
Right.
And so I just made the record effortlessly, really, in 3 days with those
In three
limitations
days.
in 3 days.
Okay.
And then I sent it to Bill, and they wanted to put it out. And I was walking around New York winter listening to it, and I couldn't deny that it had something. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And that's the story of that record.
Uh, my question about that record is the song choices. What do they mean to you? Why did you choose those songs? Because you're making a tribute record.
Yeah.
It has to mean something to you in relation to this person.
Well, I chose them through revelation. I just whatever song sprung to my mind next is the one I did.
Okay.
So that was the other thing I did set about. Like allowed revelation to instruct me on which songs to pick. So I didn't like I it was literally the next one that came to my mind. That's the one I did.
Wow.
That's how I chose.
Great. I really wanted to know. I was curious. It's
Yeah.
a tribute album in that way. I was like,
No, and especially a career like his, which is just amazing,
the Twilight Singers
Mhm.
and Greg Dully.
Yeah.
How did this all come about?
Well, Greg, I met through Mike Napolitano in New York, and we just became fast friends, So, and Greg is a amazing songwriter and an incredible person, really. And I had this song called "Speed of Light" on "Come to Where I'm From," which is like "Good Night, New Orleans." And now I won't remember the lyrics because of the pressure. But "Good Night, New Orleans." I can't remember the next line. Anyway, he thought I was from New Orleans, and he
Oh,
or that that I had history there because I name checked it in a lyric, but I didn't actually. And
Right.
he'd spent a lot of time there. And so that was like a sort of funny moment when we first met. And, he has a lot of enthusiasm and intensity as well. And so we became friends. And then, as it works out, he would be like, "Oh, you want to sing on this, or I want you to sing on this," and he sang on a couple of my things. And
You seem to be putting yourself, Joseph, in so many of those situations throughout your career. It was daunting to me to even want to tackle your life.
yeah, no, there is a lot of that, like with "Fistful of Mercy" with Ben Harper and Dhani Harrison.
What the hell is
I
that?
know it's kind of kooky. To me, it's kooky too. And then Jeff Ament, R&DM.
Yeah.
And then now the Silver Lights that's just been released with Rich Robinson from the Black Crowes, Peter Buck, and Barrett Martin. And then now there's another one getting ready to come out because I have a band with Peter Buck called Arthur Buck. We put out one record, but we finished the second record a while ago,
Okay.
but it hasn't been the right time
Right.
until it's going to come out, I think, pretty soon, Arthur Buck 2.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I don't, that's just stuff that's like a gift, I guess, I don't know. I don't control those things.
But like I have you here. I have to corner you about this.
Okay.
For real. What do you think it is about you that makes this happen?
That's a good question.
Give me some courage, give me some motivation, give me something.
Well, I think I'm creatively very open. I love to work with other people. So much of my music is wrapped in working alone.
Mhm.
You know, and I want to be in a band a lot of the time.
Right.
So maybe it's desire, you could say. Um and and grace, desire and grace, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know. 'Cause I don't really seek those things out in an ambitious way. They sort of come to me and I'm open to them.
It feels like it.
Yeah, that's
It
it.
feels like it.
I don't I'm not like hounding people on their socials and saying, "Hey, we should do a project together." I don't do that.
You're not chasing.
I don't chase it. I haven't chased any of those things,
Mhm.
but I would say that's true about all of anything that could be perceived as so-called success is, yeah, it's not chased. Like, even if you look at the Peter Gabriel demo, the first thing,
Yeah.
I gave it to a buddy of mine
Mhm.
that was not in the music business.
Shout out to that guy.
Michael K. I have a song with his name on the first record because of that. He's a friend of mine. Michael K is that guy, and he's still with us. Thank God.
Wow.
So shout out Michael K. Yeah, but no, he didn't have any music business,
Things just
acumen, so to speak.
it's it's because of who I am and because of what I'm trying to heal.
Yeah,
I'm always trying to be inspired, and
yeah.
motivated and to seek meaning, purpose, and intention through my conversations on my
Well,
podcast.
you're doing an excellent job, man. You just need to cut yourself some slack. Or it's not even you. It's you need to recognize that there's a demon in you that won't ever cut you slack and cut that guy loose through forgiveness.
You are talking like my therapist. I agree with you, man. I'm trying.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. I mean, this has been one of the best podcasts I've ever done.
Oh man.
I love it, man. I think you're excellent at this. You're very good at this. This conversation wouldn't facilitate with somebody who wasn't as open as you,
It
and
takes one to know
and
one.
as seeking as you, and as beautiful as you. It wouldn't happen. So by virtue of the fact of this happening, that's all the evidence you need. But there's going to be a tormentor in you that will never let you see that. Doesn't want you to know that, because if you really know that, you will be able to free yourself from him.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
And once you really know that, then you can cut him loose. But you can cut him loose by forgiving.
Joseph, I'm gonna have to let you go on this beautiful note. I know
Okay,
you guys
good.
have to head out soon. However, I am gonna just open my phone and make sure I didn't forget a question before I let you go.
I don't think we're in a huge hurry, but
Okay,
10
perfect,
decent,
perfect.
decent minutes.
I just want to be respectful of you guys' time, you know?
We're good, man. We're good.
Um, Again, it's just daunting to me because you've done so much. I wanted to talk about your poems and your books, but I also wanted to talk about Indica Records and your ties to Montreal because it's odd that someone of your, you're from the States. You
Yeah,
do have a specific relationship to Montreal. Can
it's
you tell me
true.
about? I don't know about all that.
Well, it's French people basically embraced me the most so far, and from early on, right? And so
Okay.
I think that carried over into Montreal. And then Peter Wark, who was my manager for many years, who's a great guy, um, beautiful guy, and he brought me into Montreal even more and into Canada even more. And then I ended up working with Godin Guitars through him. We did art shows here. It became a home away from home in a lot of ways, and so it's a city I love very much. And touring Canada has always been a real pleasure. The border is not so great, but outside of that,
We got to be careful who we let in,
I
Joseph. You know what
guess
I'm saying?
y'all are stiff with
We
the
have like
border.
weird neighbors.
Yeah, it's true. I don't disagree. But so yeah, so I would say it's those elements. It's the sort of embrace of the French, and then Peter Wark. I would give him a lot of credit for why I've been here as much as I have, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
he lives here. And so there was very fertile soil for me already,
Mm-hmm.
and then he came into my life and facilitated that even more.
Right.
So that would be why.
Interesting.
I think that's why.
Um, I also I don't want to dwell on that, but I do want to acknowledge for people listening that your approach to your live show right now,
Yeah.
I would feel is something that has, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way. It's a bit more common now,
Oh, yeah.
but what I'm trying to say
Yeah.
is that when you started doing it,
Yeah.
it was. It's funny to think of it this way, but it. Correct me if I'm wrong, because that's my feeling. It was very, I guess, without you even wanting to, pioneering.
Well, I absolutely pioneered that approach.
Right.
And that's not coming from my ego, baby. It's just true, and
Yeah.
I'll give you a little bit more about it. I mean, Jaco Pastorius was the first guy I saw like live looping, and he obviously did it way before me.
Hmm.
And people did do it, but usually it was in the sort of jazz fusion realm, or like a couple people did it. But in terms of singer-songwriters doing it the way it's very common now,
Yeah.
I was the first one to do it that way. And the way we did it was, it wasn't my idea though. I won't take credit for the idea. It wasn't my idea. So I feel like I can take credit for pioneering it because it wasn't my idea.
Well, you took
Um,
it on the road and you made it.
I did do that, and the way that happened was this guy named Paul Ridout, and through Real World, that it was my first
Another
record.
real world connection.
Absolutely,
Okay.
and it became from there forward thinking. That forward thinking collective really pioneered it, you could say, because I made Big City Secrets with Marcus Draves, who produced it, and it was a big production record, first record, but we didn't have any touring budget, so I couldn't take a whole band out with me. So they started thinking like, how are we going to do this? Like,
Necessity.
yes, yeah, it was the mother of invention, right?
Exactly.
So Paul Ridout was they put me with him for I don't know what reason. He's like a musical guy, he's a cool guy. Said, let's put Joe with Paul and see what they can come up with. And Paul said, have you ever played against loops of yourself? And I said, and I had done, I knew Jocko, and he did that, and I had a delay pedal, and I said, kind of with a delay pedal. He's like, there's these things called jam mans, which
Yeah.
are live loopers.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't like it is now, where it's a pedal and it's easy.
We're
like what
talking about like.
racks.
Yeah.
So we carried around racks of gear to everywhere we went. But Paul and I spent a month at Real World developing this. We got 3 jam bands. We midied them all together. And then I would like do loops, but I couldn't take them in and out. There was no pedal to take them in and out.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, this is not dynamic enough. I need to be able to take things out
Yeah.
live. So then we hooked up volume pedals. So I carried around 2 huge volume pedals as well. Like essentially what's now in a single box that's easy to carry.
Yes.
It used to be a rack with a whole pedal board to do the whole thing. So it was like enormous amounts of gear. And yeah, we just started doing essentially what I'm doing now. And it's evolved, of course, but
Your show yesterday blew me away.
thank you.
I mean, I'm a musician. I'm in the culture.
Yeah.
I see a lot of shows. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The way you did it,
Yeah.
like effortlessly, everything about your live show, man, your presence, the way you just came, as you said, in and out of those loops, and the way hearing you talk about that sort of like very technically difficult situation, the way you do it effortlessly now, it's really inspiring, and you make it look easy, and it isn't.
Well, thank you for saying that. Dynamics are a huge part of it too. Like, so if I'm like doing beats and stuff like that, and then doing kind of a wall of sound thing with distortions and stuff like that, it enables you to jam with yourself. That's in a great way, you know. It's and improvise. I mean, the way I have a Nord drum as well. The analog drum, which I have going into the looper, and a keyboard going into the looper, and a microphone going into the looper, and my guitar going into the looper.
Yeah.
And with the Nord drum, I'm always randomly getting drum sounds. Like it's got a dial, so I never know what drum sounds, what beat. It's a lot of it's improvised.
That's what you were doing last night?
Yeah. All of it's improvised. Like I don't have there's no like I know I use this patch for this song. There's none of that. I do a little
Is
beat.
this true?
Yeah, absolutely. I do a little beat on the acoustic, and then I like just go over to the Nord drum and I literally just go whoop, and I let randomness. And if it's terrible, if it's a bad sound, I'll like do it again.
Right.
But usually the first one's fine. And then so I'll add on to the beat, and then it'll become real interesting at that point, and big sounding,
Right.
you know. And then yeah, and then maybe I'll do a little melody or something too to like kick in on the chorus or whatever, and then I'll build up from there. I can then layer in at the end or in the middle. I can layer in a good chords, and then solo over that, which is great. And then I can build that up more and more and more to where it becomes a cacophony of sound, and it can become quite aggressive. But then the next song, I'll just do some fingerpick acoustic folky thing, so it's a real big dynamic shift, and it keeps the audience interested.
The way you're so purposeful, my favorite thing about talking with you is how much intention and purpose you put into the things. Like what you just explained to me
Yeah.
is exactly what I experienced last night.
Right.
So the fact that you were so, what's the word I'm looking for? That was the intent.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to me because I'm like, okay, that's the way, you know?
Yeah. Well, I just think improvisation is so fun. Like yesterday, for instance, I did a song "Travel Is Equals," and it's never sounded anything like that before, ever. Like, and what it was I hit, like I had a fuzz on, and then when I ended it on that fuzz thing, and then I just made a slower riff and made a new loop out of
Right.
that. But it was like not planned. I've never done it that way. But I just built it, and it was fun, and I thought it could just be like a tail at the end. But then I realized I could do that song, and then that song got completely reinvented at that moment. And there's such a great energy to watching someone discover something new live.
Absolutely.
And so if you could, and with presence, you're free to move and operate in that way. So, and there's no fear. Like you can't really make a mistake. You're not like looking at like whatever, even if it breaks down, even if it doesn't work. Sometimes things don't work, and you can like just stop it and make a joke on yourself, and the audience laughs at that and they love that. Like
I saw that.
there's no time where you can really fail unless you let fear and the mind creep in. And then that can overcome. Even if you're not vibing with the audience, even if the audience is against you, if you maintain presence in that, you still won't be defeated.
That's exactly. I was very inspired by your confidence.
Yeah.
You know, the way you just sort of.
But it's not an ego confidence.
I know that for sure, but
because that wouldn't work.
it's
It's rooted in presence. That's why. Because it's not really like, it's not egotistical confidence.
didn't feel like it at all for sure. It felt like, as you said, generous.
It's so funny. People say that generous thing too a lot. Like,
Is that right?
Yeah, but it's interesting because I feel like I'm getting so much out of it. Now at the end of the night, I'm like, wow, like I can tell I've put out a lot of energy. But at the same time, I get so much joy out of performing like that. Like, and people responding and just the whole thing. It's
Well, let's
so
just
fun.
say it's a good
fun.
exchange.
Yeah, it's a great exchange.
I know you have to go. I do want to say before we go, I want to say thank you to Amélie for hooking this whole thing up.
Amélie Chopinnet. I mean, I have not enough good things to say about her. I mean, she's, we talked a little bit about the cancellation stuff. She's resuscitated my career, honestly. Like, we had a conversation on Instagram about a year and a half ago, and she was like, you got to come back to France. And I'm like, I don't even know. And I hadn't been back to France in even 8 years or maybe more or whatever, since even pre the so-called cancellation or whatever. Like, so even that, it was like already sort of broken down a little bit. And I was like, I don't even know if I still have an audience there. She was like, oh, you're kidding. Of course you do. And I'm like, well, listen, if you can book me a few shows, like 3-4 shows, and make it make sense financially to where I'm not coming out of the pocket and I can maybe even make a little bit of money, then do it. I'll come play. And she goes, okay, I'll do it. Now we're on our fifth tour now, I think. Like, she's booked 4 tours in Europe. Now she's booked this Canadian and US tour. I mean, she never did this before. And not only does she do that, but she's helped me resuscitate my social media. Like,
Right.
she, and now we, like, I post myself as well now. I'm starting to kind of like get more active myself. But at first I was like too like weird.
What's this?
I was too weirded out to even like engage, other than like throwing a hand grenade into the room and walking away here and there.
Yeah.
So that's become much healthier and vibier again, thanks to her.
Well, you guys look like a good team, and
yeah, she's incredible, and and now it feels too like we just got a distribution deal through MRI Megaforce, so our team is expanding.
Amazing.
And it's a beautiful thing, man. It really is. It's wild. So yeah, Amélie Chopinnet.
well, I'll tell you what, Amélie, if there's ever anything I can do, because I know a lot of people in the music industry here too.
Hey,
So whatever works, man.
that's amazing. Yeah, we'll reach out for sure,
Thank you guys for making the time. Amélie, thank you for making this happen. And Joseph,
dude.
truly,
What a pleasure, man.
likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
man.
thank you. We'll do part 2.
Wrap it up. Done.
No,
Sold.
we'll do it, man. It's fun. It's fun to chat with you. And plus, there's the killer coffee shop right around the corner. You weren't lying.
I told. Okay, that's it. I'll let you guys go.
All right, peace.
Fuck.
Told you so. Together we on seems like we on a roll when we rollin' with this real. Ain't no need to be lying and shit. No, we were born with the power to flip. Give us any challenge and we winning it quick. It's time for us peeps to be living it up. Ain't no other way to live if you know that's what's up. Put your hands in the air if you know you're the bomb. Cause tonight we exploding and we bringing the dawn. It's all written in the sky. You just gotta read it. It's all written in the sky. We just gotta read it.